Hi, my name is Danielle Arsenault. I'm a raw food chef and plant-based nutrition educator, and I'm super excited to bring you this exclusive vegan Thanksgiving meal plan. And we're here together to showcase many different nutritional tips that are really going to enhance your life overall. These videos are here for you to revolutionize your health from the comfort of your own home. I'm so excited to be presenting to you a full menu that has, number one, the drink. It's a mulled pineapple juice, just like mulled wine, except for it's non-alcoholic and you can serve it to your little kiddos. Then the appetizer is a kimchi celery stuffing with the mushroom miso gravy. For our main, it's a sun-dried tomato cashew pesto stuffed portobello mushroom. And for dessert, it's going to blow your mind, a creamy vanilla butternut squash tart. I'm so excited to share this with you. It's my passion to be the bridge between healthy and delicious, because everybody knows if the food doesn't taste good, it's not going to be sustainable. So this is my goal, is to make healthy, whole, plant-based vegan foods taste so good that you'll keep coming back for more. We're going to start our meal plan with a very simple mulled pineapple juice. So this takes the concept of mulled wine, and we are making it non-alcoholic by adding pineapple juice and carrot juice and orange juice. The key difference here is that half of this juice is going to be considered raw. How do we do that? Well, we take our pineapple juice, we take our carrot juice and orange juice. The birds are singing to me this morning. And then we're just gonna pour half of it back in the jar. All right, so this will actually stay raw. The reason that we don't wanna cook this juice is we want to keep the enzymes intact. If you already follow me, you'll hear me say a lot that raw food contains a lot more enzymes and vitamins than cooked food. We just wanna keep in mind that the enzymes present in the pineapple, the vitamin C present in the orange juice actually diminishes significantly when we cook it. So we've kept half of it raw in order to keep those enzymes alive and the vitamins alive. I don't know what you do with the pineapple skins and the middle core of the pineapple, but first of all, keep in mind the middle of the pineapple, the core of the pineapple, is actually the most concentrated in enzymes. So it's almost the most nutritious part of the pineapple. And so many people throw this out. So don't do that, don't throw it out. If you're making pineapple juice, definitely just juice that core. I can always recommend that you just save the core and freeze it and then add it to your smoothies. Another thing that you can do is with your pineapple skins, you can make something called tepache. Tepache is a fermented pineapple drink that usually has the same spices as this mulled pineapple juice. In fact, cinnamon, cloves, and all I've done is I've put the pineapple skins in water and I've left them overnight, and I'm going to leave them for another few days. They're going to ferment in the water, and it's the water that you actually want to drink. So eventually you can discard those pineapple skins. Even if you find a little bit of mold on the top, you can just scrape that off. There's not a problem with it. Strain out the pineapple juice, and then you can drink this delicious cinnamon clove flavored pineapple juice, and it's super good and full of probiotics. So we're going to take some cinnamon. Now this is actual proper cinnamon grown on a cinnamon tree. It's the outer bark that's been washed and dried, and we're going to add in this cinnamon to our juice that we're going to put on the stovetop. Okay, we're also going to add a little bit of coconut sugar. You can leave this out completely, but I'm going to add just a little bit of coconut sugar to give it a little bit more sweetness. Coconut sugar is a sustainable form of sugar that comes from the coconut palm, and the coconut palm isn't harmed when we're harvesting this sugar. It's a really good alternative for other sugars. Okay, and the last ingredient we're gonna add is cloves. So cloves, that classic Christmas flavor. So let's just add a few, not too many, 3, 4, 5, 6, something like that. And we're gonna get ready to mull this pineapple juice. So we've turned off the stove, we've cooled down just a touch our beautiful mulled pineapple juice, and I'm going to strain out the cloves and the cinnamon. Okay. Now the cool thing about these cloves and these cinnamon, you can actually reuse them again. So store them in the fridge until you're ready to use them. I would use them again in the next couple days though. All right, let's see the color difference now. Wow. So you can see the color difference is actually quite different. The cooked version and the raw version. Okay, so the next step is to add our raw, enzyme-full, vitamin-rich juice to the mulled juice. Wow. This is so tasty and it reminds me of the holidays. Cinnamon, cloves, orange, carrot, deliciousness. Enjoy! Check out this loaf of sourdough. Wow! I am so grateful to be here on Ometepe Island in Nicaragua, where a lot of my friends are artisans. They're food geniuses. My friend Rachel, she makes the sourdough in her cob oven, which I was actually a part of building. I was able to spend 3 days building a cob oven, learning techniques on how to create an incredible way to make my own food in the oven and to really share with community. So this beautiful bread is not gluten-free, but if you're getting sourdough bread, it's not as intense on the digestive system because it's already been pre-digested, it's already been fermented. Those people who are intolerant of wheat, you won't want to eat sourdough, but if you're just a bit sensitive, you might find that sourdough is okay. But alternatively, this recipe is so delicious, you could actually just exclude the bread altogether, half the amount of broth, and still have an incredible stuffing that you can serve with your mushroom miso gravy. What else is in the stuffing? Of course, classic, absolutely a must, onion and celery. So celery, as you know, it's a staple for a lot of soups, a lot of bases of stocks, and it's actually really high in calcium. And then we have onion. So onion has quercetin in it. You know, I've heard people say to eat onions or part of the onion family at least once a day. So onion, garlic, shallots, leeks. The secret ingredient, kimchi. I actually lived in South Korea for 4 years, and that is where I was introduced to kimchi and all types of kimchi, and that's how I learned the beginnings of my love affair with fermentation was in South Korea. So kimchi, high in probiotics. Again, you want to add it at the end of cooking so as not to kill off all those probiotics. It will still warm up throughout the dish, and then you want to serve it right away. So another kind of secret ingredient to this stuffing is lentils. So this is another reason that you could skip the bread altogether, because you've got high protein dense lentils, and these lentils also have a secret ingredient. They have a couple scoops of cashew sour cream in them at the end of cooking, and it makes them super creamy and delicious, and we're gonna throw those in our stuffing as well. So they're lightly salted, and I think maybe there's a bit of cumin in that. We're also going to add some organic kale at the end of cooking, again to keep it as raw as possible but still warmed and still mixed within our stuffing. The broth, this is actually what gives it all the flavor. This broth is full of so many different spices, herbs, rosemary, thyme. Oh my gosh, it's so good. It has nutritional yeast in it. It has celery, garlic, and carrots in it. In fact, you know what? I will throw in my best medicinal soup stock recipe in with this video. So that'll be a little bonus for you, because you can learn how to make your own soup stock at home, and it will add so much flavor to your food. Okay, let's get cooking. I'm so excited to put this all together and share it with you. All right, grab a saucepan and just toss a little bit of olive oil in that. You can actually go oil-free as well by starting with just a splash of your broth. Okay, then go the onions, but you want to keep half of them raw. This is going to make a crunch factor to your final dish. And add your celery. Also keep those raw. It's going to be delicious with the different textures in there. Stir that up and then add your garlic. Stir it, let it sit for probably 10 minutes. You can stir it a couple times if you want. Then add all of your bread and pour on your broth. But when you stir it, you really want to fold it in carefully, because you don't want to break apart the bread. You still want those bread pieces to hold their shape. And then you're going to fold in some of the red lentils, which also have a scoop of cashew cream, as I mentioned. So if you have just normal lentils, throw a bit of cashew cream in that final product. Then you're going to add your kale, mix that up lightly, and turn off the stove. Hi, so now I'm going to tell you exactly why I saved some raw celery and raw onion. Because raw food has different nutrient profiles than cooked food. And in fact, we actually lose a lot of vitamins when food is cooked, especially the water-soluble vitamins like vitamin C. We are going to try to get that back by adding fresh raw onion and celery. Okay. We want to infuse our food with as much nutrition as possible, and by having half of the veggies cooked and half of them raw, we do that. We're going to add the kimchi as well. So this still has the kale, and the kale is not very cooked, again, which is a good thing. We just wanted to soften it a tiny little bit. And then we add our raw onion, our raw celery, and star of the dish, which is kimchi. So incredible bounty this amazing stuffing will be. And just wait until we pair it with that miso mushroom gravy. And one more addition to this, while I stir it all up, is just a tablespoon, half a tablespoon of tamari. So I want to kind of get that up just for a little punch of umami and another punch of salt, or sodium, if you will. So let's stir this all up, and then we're going to let it sit for a while. I am here in this world. My purpose is to provide the bridge between healthy and delicious. And today we start with the most simple recipe that will be a staple in your household for years to come. It is an all-purpose cashew sour cream. Very, very simple. Cashews, that is the base. The number one tip is soak them overnight and rinse them in the morning, and then use these softened, soaked cashews to make your cream. The other ingredient is water, and then we have lime juice and apple cider vinegar. That's it. Not even any salt, just plain and simple, pretty much 3 ingredients, and you are gonna have this incredible recipe to be the base of other recipes, including the mushroom miso gravy that we're going to make today. So stay tuned for that. I'm excited to show you all that I know and give you as many tips and tricks that you can employ in your own kitchen to revolutionize your health from the comfort of your own home. Wow, I love this recipe. This is the most versatile cream that you could use in the kitchen. You can use it for something savory, which we're gonna use it for today, or you can use it for something sweet, which we're also gonna use it for in the vegan Thanksgiving dinner menu that I'm gonna share with you. I'm so excited because the dessert is a creamy vanilla and butternut squash tart. My take on pumpkin pie that will blow your mind. Let's get ready for the gravy. I'm going to be making mushroom miso gravy. This is just one recipe in a whole menu of a vegan plant-based Thanksgiving menu that is going to wow your taste buds. Mushrooms, gravy, I mean those two words are synonymous for delicious. Now we're going to put them together and we're going to make this amazing, delicious mushroom miso gravy that will be an accompaniment to the kimchi celery stuffing. What do we got? We got mushrooms, of course. So these are portobello mushrooms, and in their small form, they're known as cremini mushrooms. They're the same mushroom, they're just one's grown a little longer, it's a little bit bigger. Mushrooms are very rich in vitamin D, and in fact, if you take them out in the sun and sit them there for a while, they absorb the vitamin D from the sun and they become even more enhanced in vitamin D. So that's pretty amazing fact. We're going to cook these down. Now normally through Pachavega Living Foods Education, I advocate a raw, whole living foods diet, but there are cases when we cook food and that is delicious, it's also nutritious. In fact, mushrooms, they're not part of the plant kingdom, so they don't react the same when you cook them. In fact, they enhance in nutrients when they're cooked. Most mushrooms should be cooked. You can eat raw mushrooms from time to time, but I recommend marinating them. We're going to cook down these mushrooms and they're going to be so umami flavored. So this is that deep flavor, that savory flavor that's among the other flavors, which are salty, sweet, sour, spicy, and bitter, and umami. Garlic, wow, it's a medicine. It's antimicrobial, antifungal, antibacterial, and this incredible allium vegetable. If you cut it ahead of time, in fact about 10 minutes ahead of time, it gives the different constituents, the allicin, within the garlic to mix and become allinase, and it actually becomes also more nutritious when you chop it ahead of time. So that's an awesome tip for the kitchen. We've got some white wine. This has been sitting in my fridge for who knows how long, and I'm excited to finally use it to create this rich umami broth. We also have veggie broth, the secret ingredient, cashew cream. Wow, this stuff is incredible, and it becomes this creamy, delicious, super satisfying cream that you can use all-purposely, and you can substitute it for any cream or butter that you use in traditional recipes. And the next thing that's going to be in our delicious gravy is the second part of the title, which is miso. So I typically like to use a chickpea miso. This is a lighter miso. It's also still full of probiotics, and which we know can help our gut health overall. So when we eat probiotic food, we're also adding more of the diversity of the probiotics within our gut. And when you eat just a variety of regular foods, variety of fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds, you're also contributing to a variety of your microbiome, because every single food you eat that has fiber in it becomes what we call prebiotics, which is the food that feeds your probiotics, thus contributing to more probiotics in the gut. So wow, include miso in your diet. The next recipe also that I'm going to be showing you has kimchi in it, but you're going to have to wait a little bit for that recipe. Saying all this about probiotics, probiotics are actually heat sensitive, which means that we don't want to add the miso until the very end of the gravy making process. We want to even maybe cool our gravy a little bit before we add the miso. I'm going to show you really soon how to do that, but I still wanted to mention a few other ingredients. Nutritional yeast is a non-active form of yeast that actually is a byproduct of the sugar industry. It grows on molasses, and it's what's responsible for that cheesy flavor in the plant-based diet. The next thing, we're going to add a little bit of spices. We're going to add pepper, we're going to add salt, and we're going to add some sage powder. And here in the tropics, I actually don't have any thyme. I can't find any at the moment, but what I do have is thyme essential oil. Now, you don't need to use essential oil in the lifestyle, but they come in handy from time to time. So I'm going to put 1 drop, because it's super potent, into either the wine or the broth, something to be able to dilute it. You don't want to add it to the mushroom. If I add it straight to the mushrooms, that oil, one little piece of mushroom is going to soak up the essential oil, and then you're going to have one person who gets a really tiny bite of mushroom. So instead, let's add it to the broth. Okay, one, and you'll want to stir it up a little too. Whoa, that's so intense. I probably shouldn't have done that. Okay, we're gonna get this ready. We're gonna cook it down, and we're going to make some of the best mushroom gravy that you've ever had.
So the first thing that you're gonna do is add your miso to a little glass jar and add just a few tablespoons of your cooled broth. Then you're gonna whisk it up until it's nice and creamy, and you'll be adding this to your gravy once your gravy has cooled slightly, so as not to kill off the probiotics. So light up your stove and throw in a little bit of oil, and then you're gonna dump all your mushrooms in. And you're gonna stir these around and make sure they sweat a bit so they're losing their water content, and then pour in that wine and then your broth. Super delicious. Well, I can't wait to eat this. Nutritional yeast and a bit of salt and pepper. And then you're gonna stir it around and let it boil for another 15 minutes. After it's simmered a little bit, what you're gonna do is add that cashew cream. And then you can stir it all in together. This will thicken it significantly. So yeah, you'll start to see it get really thick, and just keep stirring it. And then eventually you're going to turn off the pan, and you're going to cool the gravy a little bit, and then you'll add it to the Vitamix to blend. Just make sure that you taste it and blend away. And then you can transfer your gravy back to the pan and add that miso paste on top, and then give it a quick whisk to mix it all in, and then let it cool for a while before transferring it into a mason jar. Now, I've blended the entire gravy recipe, but you can leave a few chunks if you want. I think this will be great for texture.
Wow, okay, I won't lie. This is probably the best mushroom gravy I've ever had in my life. It's amazing. To our main course, and it is a sun-dried tomato, cashew pesto, stuffed portobello mushroom. Wow, I'm super excited to make this recipe. You have a few options when it comes to finishing these mushrooms. You can put them in the dehydrator. You could bake them. You could pan fry them. There's many options. Mushrooms, they're part of the fungi kingdom. They're not even a plant. I highly recommend that you cook the mushrooms. But first, we're gonna make the stuffing. What is inside these mushrooms, and what does this pesto taste like? We're gonna start with dry cashews. Now, I want dry, raw cashews because they're gonna provide a texture, a crunch. If I soak these ones ahead of time, they would be too soft and it would get too mushy. So dry, raw cashews, not roasted and salted. Okay. Then we're going to add the herbs, which are basil and cilantro. Okay, both of these herbs are excellent for chelating heavy metals in the body, and they provide a lot of antioxidants and chlorophyll, which is the green blood of the plant. Chlorophyll is very like our own blood, except for in the center of the chlorophyll molecule, you'll see magnesium, whereas our blood, the central molecule, is iron. Sun-dried tomatoes, we call this a sun-dried tomato cashew pesto, so of course we have sun-dried tomatoes. These have been soaking overnight. Now, I don't necessarily want a lot of the water because I don't want the pesto to get too mushy, so I could strain out the water, or I can just eyeball this measurement, and I'm gonna put it in with the spoon. The more that you learn about me and who I am and how I love to cook, you'll realize that I don't like to measure. I'm kind of a rebel in that way. Although I have provided the exact recipe for you to take a look at, there are people that just need a recipe. And the next thing we're gonna add is the cashew sour cream. Okay, so we do and we will have a little bit of creaminess in this pesto. Nutritional yeast, and that's for that cheesy flavor in the vegan diet. It's an inactivated form of yeast that grows on molasses. And so it's very, very delicious when added to pretty much everything. It is definitely a staple in my diet. Okay, now for some sour balance, we're gonna add both lime juice and apple cider vinegar. All right, let's add garlic. Now, garlic is a powerful medicine. When you chop garlic ahead of time, it enhances in nutrition. So this guy, chopped ahead of time, is really powerful. I would love to add some fennel seeds. This is going to add a different flavor and just a pinch of salt. When you buy your sun-dried tomatoes, you want to be sure to check if they're salted or not, because this will make a huge difference in your overall meal, and you won't have to add any salt, and you might even want to wash the sun-dried tomatoes ahead of time. All right, let's process this. I'm just gonna keep looking because I don't want those cashews to be too small. I still want texture in the pesto, but it just needs a little bit more. Ooh, smells amazing. All right, so I wanna show you what this looks like, the texture that we're going for. All right, so you can see the texture. It's a bit textured. It holds its shape. It's delicious. Okay, so now we're gonna take our beautiful mushrooms and we're going to stuff them. So these are fully raw portobello mushrooms. We're gonna stuff them quite high with the pesto, and then we really want to do something with these mushrooms. And when I say do something, I mean we want to either pan fry them, as I mentioned earlier, cook them. You can throw them in a toaster oven. You can put them in the oven, or you can put them in the dehydrator and keep them raw. I'm going to put them in the dehydrator. I'm going to keep them raw, and why I'm doing this is because they're still considered raw, dehydrated at a really low temperature, which is 115 degrees. Now, they will actually soften. They'll start to soften, they'll start to lose some of their juices, and they'll become nice and juicy, and therefore we can eat them, and they're still considered raw because they still have a lot of those enzymes and vitamins intact. If you don't have a dehydrator at home, feel free to pan fry them. So once they're stuffed, you can stick the mushroom in a pan, and then, you know, just on really low, maybe a few drops of water in there, and you can steam them. There are so many options. Okay, so let's fill them. Really, really full. Stuffed as in overstuffed. And then we're going to place them on the dehydrator sheet, like so. This is so good, I actually just want to eat it like, And that the cashews that are hard is so key. So you need that crunch because otherwise it's too mushy. I'm gonna put these in the dehydrator and we will come back and I'll show you what they look like. So we are gonna take a look at these mushrooms. They're done, they're ready. And how do you know they're ready? When you squeeze the bottom, they're nice and juicy. We're gonna plate these and I can't wait to dig in.
So I started them on 145 degrees Fahrenheit just to get the temperature of the dehydrator up, and then I turned it down to 115 and I left them in here for 6 hours. Now you can see that they're nice and juicy.
and the moment you've all been waiting for, dessert. We're gonna turn this humble vegetable, the butternut squash, into one of the most delicious Thanksgiving desserts that you've ever had, the creamy vanilla butternut squash tart. So I'm gonna peel this and I'm gonna steam this, and I'll meet you right back here in a couple moments. Isn't it cute? So to make this creamy vanilla butternut squash tart, we're gonna start with the base, the crust. So I really recommend a very simple crust to balance the creaminess and deliciousness of the cream. And we're gonna start with oats. But what we wanna do is we wanna grind them finely before we add all together. Let's add the oats, let's grind them. Amazing. Okay, just dump them in here. So this is like an oat flour. If you want it really fine, you can actually put it in the Vitamix and make it into a finer powder. But we want just a little bit of texture, so we're going to do it in the food processor. Next, same thing goes for the almonds. We want to bust them up until they're nice and small, almost like a powder. You know, if I kept going, busting up these almonds, eventually this would actually turn into almond butter. So if you want to make your own nut butters at home, this is what I recommend. Soak your nuts and seeds overnight. Then dry them so they're really, really dry in the dehydrator. And then use the food processor to create them as butter, almond butter. The only thing that you'll want to look out for is the machine might get a little hot over time, so then you can just stop it after a while, let it rest, and then do it again. Also, another tip to facilitate the nut butter process is you can add a little bit of coconut oil to get it going. But this is pretty awesome. It's a little bit chunky still. It's got a little bit of texture still. That's great. So we're gonna dump that in there. And now we're going to get our raisins that have been soaking overnight, and we're going to put those in the food processor without the water. Nuts and seeds, you always want to discard the soaking water, but with raisins, cranberries, dried blueberries, any dried fruit, you can actually keep the soaking water for other recipes, for other sweet recipes that call for water. So I'm gonna keep this, maybe even throw it in a smoothie if you don't use it after a couple days. And let's add our vanilla powder. Wow, this is just gonna set this crust off. And we wanna add a pinch of salt to give it that sweet balance. Sweet always tastes sweeter with a little pinch of salt. Let's blend these up. Now we're gonna add everything back and then add the addition of the coconut oil. Okay. And blend one more time. Using the spatula to get the sides down. I added half the dry and then I busted it up and then I added the rest of it. Just didn't want to put it all in at once. Now it's starting to look like a crust. Oh, and I can smell that vanilla. Yum. All right, simple and delicious. Always taste. Yummy. It's so different because usually I make crusts with dates, but the raisins add a little bit more sourness. I really like it. Yum. We're gonna press our crust into little tart pans and then we are going to freeze them so that they set. In the meantime, we're gonna make our vanilla cream and our butternut squash cream. What I really love about this creamy vanilla frosting recipe is that once you make the cashew cream, you don't need another machine. All you do is whisk it or stir it in a bowl. So it's super easy. We've got our cashew cream, which is that neutral cream that can be used either savory or sweet. We've got coconut butter. Okay, so this is also known as coconut manna. It's a little bit thicker. And if you want it really, really thin, really easy to whisk, you want to warm it in the dehydrator ahead of time. Mine's just like right on the borderline of being easy to whisk. we're going to add maple syrup. And of course, a creamy vanilla frosting cannot be vanilla without vanilla. So I've got vanilla powder. This vanilla powder is amazing. People use the word vanilla to describe plain, but in my opinion, it's one of the best flavors in the world. In fact, vanilla is one of the top 3 most expensive spices per weight in the world, right alongside saffron and cardamom. Here goes. So getting it nice and creamy is making it perfectly ready to mix with the butternut cream, which I'm gonna make next. And we're gonna start with our butternut squash. So all orange vegetables are high in beta carotene, also known as provitamin A, and they're responsible for keeping the rod cells in our eyes healthy, which is responsible for night vision. So get lots of orange veggies, both cooked and raw. Then we're going to add some of our maple syrup. I don't like too sweet, so I'm just gonna hold off on the full amount. Coconut butter, wow. This will help keep your butternut squash tart firm. When we freeze it and we bring it out and serve it cold, it's actually hard at room temperature. Let's add some cashew cream, that wonderful neutral cream. Cinnamon, classic, of course. We definitely want some cinnamon in there. Nutmeg and maca. Maca is a root that grows in Peru in the high northern Andes, and it's very good to help our bodies come back to homeostasis, which is that balance that we're always searching for. So really good for stress, helps our adrenal glands. Maca is an amazing superfood. Let's blend this cream up. I can't wait. Oh my gosh. It tastes like pumpkin pie filling! Exactly what I wanted. Perfect. So we're gonna grab those tart shells out of the freezer and we're going to pour our creams in the middle and we're gonna swirl them and then we're gonna freeze them again and I'm gonna eat them for dinner. Wow, I'm super excited. I just pulled the creamy vanilla and butternut squash tarts out of the freezer. So you can pop them out of the mold quite easily. They look really cute just as they are with the swirl on them. But last night I couldn't help myself and I piped the creamy vanilla frosting on top and it looked even cuter. It's like pumpkin pie and vanilla ice cream all in one tart. So let's pipe it and make it look beautiful. All right, the moment I've been waiting for. Whoa! Whoa. This, I'm gonna make this again. This is so good. Wow. I really hope that you make this delicious creamy vanilla butternut squash tart for this Thanksgiving. People are gonna be impressed, that's for sure. If you loved this video, please follow me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, anywhere where you'll find Pachavega for more inspirational recipes that will revolutionize your health from the inside out.